Being a safe driver is crucially important. It's important to be aware of what's going on in your vehicle and around your vehicle. And you need to understand and know how to effectively do a visual search, because driving a big vehicle, you need to know all of your parameters. You need to know all your surroundings so you can safely drive and operate a commercial motor vehicle. So to scan is important. When you're scanning, you want to scan your entire area. That's one of the things is part of doing a good visual search. Commercial vehicles such as a truck, tractor trailer, bus, etc. All that covers more distance than a car when you're stopping. So what to keep in mind for is the road, the vehicle, and other hazards that's straight ahead when you're driving. Whether you're driving tractor trailer, a combination vehicle, a bus, a truck, you always want to be aware the road, vehicle, and other hazards that's straight ahead, the vehicles and other hazards that's to your left or to your right, and the vehicles behind you. Another method is doing distant scanning. Distant scanning helps you identify and just see hazards ahead of time in order for you to respond and to react early. And it also helps avoid sudden stops or any quick speed changes that is usually caused by other motors. So the best way to do this when you're driving on that road, you want to scan at least 5 cars ahead. So that way you have enough distant scanning so you can be able to safely stop that commercial vehicle. Then you want to watch for any road signs that will warn or curves on that road. And you want to keep in mind of changes in the traffic patterns and construction zones as well. Now, there are certain systems such as the lane centering systems, lane keeping assist, or LKA, or even lane departure warning systems, LDW. Basically, these systems uses cameras to help monitor the vehicle when the vehicle approaches, when the cross lane marks by a visual or audible or vibration alerts. So as you're driving, those sensors help dictate and help you be aware of certain objects that is on the road. But it's also uses an automatic steering as well to connect if the vehicle starts to exit the lane. But the key thing about these lane centering systems is do not be solely relied on that. You want to use your mirrors. And I'll go ahead and explain deeper into it. So when you're driving, when you're scanning your area, always look ahead, seeing and looking ahead. And you're probably wondering, why is that important? Or, yeah, I already know it's important. But the thing is, you have to look far ahead enough. It's not just enough just to see the visual area in front of you, but you have to see far ahead, because changing lanes takes a lot of distance, and you must look ahead in order to do the safety maneuvers so you can be able to drive safely. Now, you look far ahead, key thing, look at least 12 to 15 seconds ahead. And that's about 1 or 2 blocks ahead at lower speeds, but it's about a quarter of a mile when you're at highway speeds. So always look far ahead, at least 12 to 15 seconds. Then you want to look for traffic, look for vehicles that's turning, coming to a highway, coming into a lane with their brake lights on, because that is crucial, because that will indicate or show that they're slowing down. So anytime you see any brakes lights on, that means that the vehicle is slowing down, and you want to actually slow your vehicle down ahead of time as soon as you see those brake lights. And also seeing to the sides and rear. It's not just enough seeing far ahead, but you also have to look at the sides and the back of your vehicle as well, because you have to do that. It's crucial. Not stare at it, but glance. And that's part of a professional driving technique, by glancing at your mirrors frequently and regularly, especially in special circumstances such as road conditions. Also, another way to keep in mind is a path of travel. So when you're scanning your area, the path that you're traveling in, you want to pay attention to anything that can affect your path of travel. So some possible hazards will be pedestrians, distracted or aggressive drivers, other vehicles, debris, animals, weather-related hazards such as ice, rain, snow, sleet, or fog. You have work construction zones, intersections, stopped vehicles, emergency vehicles, and accidents. So these are all of the hazards that you must be aware of. And when you're scanning to the sides of your vehicle, you want to scan to the sides. Make sure you use the mirrors to actually check the vehicles in your blind spot, right beside the CMV, which is your commercial motor vehicle. So always check your blind spots when you're driving any commercial vehicle and any vehicle in general. And always be aware and alert of your surroundings and know exactly what's going on at all times by being a defensive driver, just being attentive, alert, and aware. Now, some vehicles do have blind spot detection systems, also known as BSD systems, and that comes either with or without cameras, depending on the type of vehicle you're driving. And these systems will warn you and let you know that it's a potential side collision or either side of your vehicle. But the main thing is don't solely be dependent on that. As a professional driver, you always want to be dependent on you safely driving it, you using your mirrors, and you are being aware of that yourself. Then, as you're scanning to the sides of the vehicle, you especially want to be critical and mindful when you're going approaching intersections, crosswalks, road roundabouts, school zones, cities, and animals. I'm gonna go ahead and dive deeper into each individual sections. So when it comes to the intersections, you really want to be prepared to stop and approach the intersection slowly, especially when there's a lot of traffic or pedestrians or lots of high activity area when you're at these intersections. You want to look to the left, right, and left again to scan the intersections as you pull through. You can never be too sure, so you always want to scan frequently and be ready to yield, stop, or take evasive action as necessary. When it comes to crosswalks, you got to watch the entire area. So you got pedestrians, you got bicyclists, you got other objects, etc. So pedestrians generally always have the right of way. And I say generally because there are instances where if there's a green light, you have the right of way to keep straight. But if a pedestrian jaywalks, then that pedestrian doesn't have the right of way. But generally speaking, always be aware, generally, the pedestrian has the right of way. So always be aware of that. Next, then you have roundabouts. So you want to slow down and yield to traffic when you're approaching that roundabout. And when you're driving in that roundabout, just watch your mirrors, read your mirrors, keep your eyes on the traffic around you and just go slow. Take your time. You go slow, goes a long way when you drive slow every single time. Then you have school zones. So definitely pay especially careful to school zones because children are not always aware of their environments. They can be either trying to play around or they're just in their zone, but they're not aware of their surroundings usually. So you want to pay extra attention when traveling near parks, playgrounds, trails, schools, and even bus stops as well. Now, for cities, you definitely want to keep in mind you got parked cars, and that creates hazard because they're parked cars, they're parked vehicles. So that can be avoided by constantly scanning the sides of your vehicle. And also you want to scan in order to avoid any possible accident or injury as well. Now, when it comes to driving on the road, you have animals. Animals, especially during nighttime, you want to keep an eye when driving in wooden areas or areas that has near tall grasses. You always want to be alert and attentive. So you want to look for the reflection in the animal's eyes in the light or movement along the side of the road. So you can be a defensive driver. Next, then you have distracted drivers. We all know this, distracted drivers. It's important to do a visual search by being aware and really recognizing a distracted driver. And it's pretty simple to identify and see who's a distracted driver. So some signs will be if the driver doesn't stay in the single lane, if they unexpectedly slow down or speed up, if they don't drive with the flow of traffic, if they cut off drivers trying to cut into somebody and get in another lane, if they're tailgating, meaning they're following too close to you, or if they're just breaking other traffic rules. And usually you'll see other drivers and other people being distracted by on their phones or their electronic devices while they're on the road. So you can easily tell, plus you're one of the biggest vehicles out there. So you can easily tell a distracted driver. Now, distracted pedestrians, you want to do a visual search by really recognizing a distracted pedestrian. So some signs that a distracted pedestrian or person will be people that are on their cell phones, such as their iPad, their technological or mobile device or electronic device. If they have earbud or headphones, if they're using that, because if you think about it, they have the earbuds on. That limits their ability to hear, focus, and pay attention to their surroundings. So most likely they won't be aware of you as you're driving and operating your commercial vehicle. So there's also focusing on something other than traffic. So you have people and pedestrians that focus on something other than the traffic, especially in urban areas such as buildings, construction, and even other pedestrians as well. Just really being mindful of those distracted drivers and the distracted pedestrians as you're scanning and operating your commercial motor vehicle. Then you want to check the rear and seeing to the rear of your vehicle. So you always want to use your mirrors when you're changing lanes. Key thing, because if you cannot read your mirrors, you cannot drive. So you want to use your mirrors before changing lanes to make sure that it's room and safe to change the lanes. You want to use your mirrors after you signal that lane change, so that way you can make sure that nothing is in your blind spot. You want to use your mirrors right after you begin a lane change, so that way you can make sure that your path is clear before you make that change. Then you want to use your mirrors after you complete that lane change. And it's important as you do this. This is a skill that does take time, but it is necessary for you to be a safe driver. So it's important to scan your mirrors every 4 seconds. Scan is look to glance every 4 seconds. Watch for loose or falling cargo or equipment, and keep an eye on your tires. So remember to also look for potential problems that include a flat or damages to your tires or even tire fires. Hey, BET Trainer here. Listen, if you really had true value out of this video, go ahead and click that like button and share some honest comments about this video, because this is going to help other people as well see the video and get the value information, so that way they can be inspired by what you're doing right now as well. So also, if you want to get the latest updates, go ahead and click the subscribe button, so then you can be able to always be updated on the next instant video that will be put out. So again, go ahead and do that. And this video was sponsored by BET Life Services and CDL for Life.